310, 320, that's when I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm ready. Not 310, when I'm at about 320. So I think, give me about 2 months. A carryover out of the Inzer, so I need to really step it up with this. I'm gonna turn on some tunes, and I don't want 4 reps, I want 5 reps. This could be ugly. There's a fucking light in my eyes, but we got there. I think we're on. Okay, ready? Today's deadlift day. Hopefully, I'm strong today. I'll let you know in a moment. Yeah. Guess what? My belt is on from the first set. And it's not because I need it, it's because I want it. I want it to feel the exact same every single set, right? So look how loose I put my belt on for the deadlift. I also put it high over the top of my rib cage. And the reason why I do the high belt setting is because when I bend down, like I brace, and then when I bend down, it doesn't pinch my fat or dig into any of the bones. It's over the top of the ribs. So when it's here, sometimes it digs into the ribs, and that's uncomfortable, and sometimes it pinches the fat. So for me, everyone's different, but you should try this because most of the people that I work with like this as well. Here's a common thing. People say things like, for deadlifts, I hate belts. They just don't work for me in a deadlift. And I say, that's because you haven't tried this yet, right? Looser and higher. Because people put the belt on in the same position as they put their squats, but they're not bent over as much as what they are in a squat. So they just take the belt off and they say, no, for me, belt is weak. Well, I believe you should try the high belt setting, which is loose. So look how loose it is, right? But then we go. So I push my whole body into it. And it's just so strong, comfortable and strong. And what happens is when I bend over, it doesn't interfere with my bottom position. That's the biggest problem. That's one of the reasons why people, and maybe you at home, check it out. If you use a belt in the deadlift and it feels really, really uncomfortable, you should try that. We're going to do squats after this, and I'm going to teach you how I hold the belt or how I use the belt in a squat. It's a different belt, actually. This is the belt that I use for a squat because it's tighter, right? And belt is here for the deadlift. The belt is here and tighter for the squat. And the brace is more or less the same, right? So the way that I do my brace is for a squat and deadlift as a power lifter. So this is different for weightlifters who clean and jerk. You'll see a weightlifter who does that, clean and jerk and snatch. They have a big arch. They have to really, head up and arch this way, which is what I say don't do in a squat and deadlift. Because unfortunately, when you extend your spine this way and arch your spine this way, what you're doing is elongating your six-pack abs. So there's a lot more to your core than just your six-pack abs, but check this out. All a muscle knows how to do is grab the origin and the insertion, and when it contracts, it pulls those two parts together. So the six-pack abs attach to the top of the front of the pelvis to the bottom of the rib cage. And when they contract, what's the action? It pulls those 2 points together. So what's that? That's this, right? So if you're going here, what are you doing to your abs? You're stretching it, you're not contracting it. Of course, they're not the only muscles involved in bracing your core, but it is a large part of it. And if you want to contract those muscles, that's what you do. So think about, so this is where people say the cue, ribs down. Right, so that's how I brace. Ready? I take a big breath and I fill my belly. And then ribs down, and then I maintain that from start to finish.
Do you maximally inhale or?
No. So if I'm maximally inhaling, I'd probably be filling my chest up as well. And that's how I would be. I'd have my back extended. That's my maximum exhalation. But I don't do that. I keep my shoulders down and I fill my belly as much as I can. If I wanted to breathe more, I could by going, but I don't do that. Okay, so I keep my shoulders down, my ribs down, and I think about pushing everything into the belt. And maintaining that same fixed, rigid position from start to finish, which is not quite neutral or straight. I don't really care for neutral or straight. If it ends up being, what you consider neutral or straight, that's fantastic. I say rigid. So lock on. So for some people, their upper back is rounded. But I want you to be in that same position from start to finish, right? Which is your muscles controlling your torso, not being pulled out of position, right? Because the weight's too heavy and your muscles aren't strong enough to hold that position. Therefore, you're resting on your spine, you know? And if that happens in a competition, fine. But if you train that way every single time you're coming into the gym, that's when, you know, you're really pushing beyond the limits of what your muscles can handle. And when you do that session after session and you're not progressing and your back is hurting, maybe that's why. Maybe you're going too heavy and training too hard with your deadlifts. So I say save that kind of like max effort for competition day. Don't max out on your deadlifts every week. Hear me out. Have you injured your back in a deadlift? And did you do it when you first started deadlifting? It's probably because you realized that deadlift is your strongest exercise. True? Is deadlift your strongest exercise? Most times it is. I'm not talking about rack pulls, of course that's stronger. I'm not talking about machine exercises either. Okay? But if the deadlift is your strongest exercise, which it is on most people, don't get too excited and think, wow, this is strong. I see all these amazing deadlifters on Instagram and strongman and powerlifting. I want to be a great deadlifter as well. Let's keep on maxing out every single week. Your back rounds week after week, and then all of a sudden you've got a sore back and you wondered why. Don't do that. Now I'm just going to do singles the whole way up, the whole way up.
What's the plan for today?
The plan is to go up 10 kilograms from last week, so it's 2 sets of 1 on 290 kilograms. Last week I did 280, the week before I did 270, and then the plan was to finish on 2 sets of 1 at 300 next week. But the plan is to do it comfortably. But you can want all you want. It doesn't always work out that way, so you can't predict. Last week I did 280 and it was kind of slow, but also, you know, really good technique, so it's pretty comfortable. I wasn't maxing out, I wasn't grinding out. So that's how I want this to look like today. And then after that, we're gonna do some stiletto squats and work the quadriceps. And I'm gonna introduce you to a new concept with the knee sleeves that I've decided to change with my training. It's gonna make it harder today, actually. Harder to lift a heavy weight, but actually in the long run, it's gonna be better for building my strength. The knee sleeves that I've been using, those, they're the new really, really stiff knee sleeves. Unfortunately, they give a lot of support, which means that your quads don't have to work as much, especially in that bottom position. It really supports the knee joint in the bottom position, which means you're not relying on your muscles as much. You don't use the muscles as much. I'm going to be using my softer knee sleeves today, which in theory will make the movement harder. So last week I did stiletto squats, 200 kilograms for 4 reps. That was before my seminar, if you remember. And the objective of today was to hit 5 reps, but when I changed those sleeves, we don't know. So this will be a good indicator of how much I actually get out of those sleeves. We'll see. So now we're at a point where if I just do bumpers the whole way, it won't fit. And I know a lot of you at home will be thinking, why don't you just use these powerlifting plates the whole time? I'll tell you why, because I don't like it. It's comfortable for me to have more plates on the bar. It makes it bend more. It feels nicer and softer when I pick it up off the floor. Is that cheating? No, because I'm training. You know, and in competition, I'll tell you what happens. The bar will bend more because there'll be more weight on it, right? So the objective is 290 and it's going to go red, 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 blue, blue, blue. And I'm going to go big plate, small plate, big plate, small plate, so that it fits on the bar and still looks nice. Everything's taken out of context. You know what I mean? What's wrong with everyone? Hey, I got a trick for you guys. Emery board. Hang on a second. Come check this out. Charlene's doing sumo pause deadlift. You're on camera, Charlene. Just ignore us, okay? Just ignore us. So guess what she's doing? She's up like always. Yeah, that's right. So she's doing pause sumo deadlift as her secondary exercise. So she injured her hip and it hurts her to do sumo. Well, it hurt her to do sumo for the last few months, which is why she hasn't been doing it. She can do sumo deadlifts with 140 kilograms, so double that, right? So this was the discussion that I had with her. If she wants to reintroduce a sumo deadlift, just because she's strong doesn't mean you should go as heavy as you can, especially if that's the exercise that injured you. So what we said was, let's introduce it as a secondary exercise. Her first exercise of the day was conventional for 4x4 on 100 kilograms, so a lot heavier than that, and her sumo is stronger than her conventional, right? So 70 kilograms on this is actually quite easy, but that's the goal, right? So her first exercise of the day, she's had a really great session. She strengthened her body. Now that it's a secondary exercise, you don't have to worry about, walking home and feeling like I didn't really get much of a session because there's only technique work and I went super light. No, you didn't. You went super light on the technique work. So she can go home and tick off that box that she had a great session. And now this was the instruction. So we go, to reintroduce the movement that once caused pain, what you want to do is go super light and leave many, many repetitions in reserve. So the discussion was to start on 60, see how that feels, do a set of 5, and then go up by 5 kilograms. If that feels easy, go up by another 5 kilograms, and then leave it there. So this is where a lot of people get carried away and they go, oh, it feels great, let's just keep going up and up and up and up, and then bang, I'm injured again. So the instruction is, just walk away after 3 sets of 5, and I hope you feel like you could do more. The next thing is you want to feel the next 24 hours how it feels, because that's what can happen with injuries. The adrenaline's high, you're nice and warm, and you feel great, but then you go home and you cool down, it's like, oh, that injury again, I've hurt myself again, stupid me, I went too hard too fast. Anyway, so that was the objective. Did you see the form on that one? It was a good one. Anyway, let's go back to my tips. Emery board, so this is what you file your nails with, but what I'm doing is I'm filing my calluses on my hands, right? So it's interesting. Thor Bjornsson, if you feel his hands, they're very soft. Okay, he cares for his hands, because if you don't care for your hands and you have these calluses and you go for a max attempt, for him he doesn't do deadlift without straps, so it doesn't really happen with deadlifts, but he does a lot of holding events like farmers, carries and frames, and if you rip your callus off, very painful, and it'll take you out of a competition. The pain is that bad. People think, no, it's just a little bit of skin. Those who have torn calluses know how hard it is to hold on to anything after that. It just hurts, no matter how big and strong you are. So the best way to not have torn calluses or rip your hand when you deadlift is to have soft hands. And this is the best tool, I believe. Everyone's got their tools, pumice stones or whatever it might be. These emery boards, really fine, and it makes your hands soft like a baby. Beautiful. Does it look beautiful? Ah, you had my hopes up. Yeah, but right now, they're kind of smooth. So there's no big, thick, hard skin to get caught on that knurling and get ripped off. So care for your skin is pretty important. Care for the skin on your hands is pretty important for the deadlift.
Now, people are going to comment about the hygiene and all that stuff in the gym that you're doing in your local gym.
This is my gym. This is my gym. So maybe they'll comment about the hygiene, but I don't know. Is it unhygienic? Maybe. Comment below. Tell me, am I being unhygienic? It is dead skin. Here's my rule, whether you like it or not. I'm going to give you tips on my technique as I come in for my warm-up sets. As it gets heavier, I'm going to relax because I need to get my head on. So what I'm going to be doing is just giving you a few tips so that every week when you come in and watch, it's a reminder. So a lot of the times, just because I've said it once doesn't mean you don't have to hear it again. A lot of the times when I'm cueing people, I say the same thing over and over, just to ingrain that in your head so you don't have to think about it anymore. So if you feel like it's a bit repetitive, I'm not sorry, I'm doing that on purpose. But anyway, why should you listen to me? Because I'm the coach of Thor Bjornsson, who has the biggest conventional deadlift on the planet, 501 kilograms. And these are the techniques that we use. Hey, come and check this out. I'll get it after. I've got one of the plates that he used with the thank you and the signature and all that stuff. Thank you to his coach. But anyway, that's why you should listen to me, because it's the best technique in the world. All right, you ready? Standing with the feet hip width, barbell in line with midfoot. My shins are about 2 inches away. From here, I'm pushing my arms down. I'm reaching. I'm not just hanging my arms. I'm reaching down. See my pecs? Right? So that's an action of pecs, but also pecs and lats is reaching down. And then armpits to pelvis. So it's this action, shoulder joint extension, is lats. When the lats are on, it does two things. It keeps the bar in line with the midfoot, so close to the body from start to finish. If the lats are off, it'll drift away from your body. That's another reason why I have those shin pads. So if it does come close and rubs up against my shins, it's fine. The next thing that lats do is they cross the longest distance of your spine, of all the muscles. Check this out. The lats attach right here. So that's the lat attachment point here. So that's called the humerus. It's on the outer lip. So that's the bicipital groove. It's on the outer lip of that. And it comes underneath, comes underneath and it attaches to the top of the pelvis. And on some of these vertebrae, on some people it attaches to the bottom of the scapula through a thing called thoracolumbar fascia. So it crosses from the front of the humerus, so here, down to the top of the pelvis. So when that muscle contracts, it is bracing and holding in place or holding rigid every single muscle that's underneath it. So the strongest muscle to maintain a rigid torso is not the erector spinae, it's not the abs, it's the lats. So if you're not doing this cue of armpits to pelvis or keeping that bar close to your body or in line with your midfoot with the lats, it's a weaker position. And that's where you do things like that whole, fishing rod technique. That's usually what happens when you're not doing this cue, armpits to pelvis. Okay, so let's do it again. Barbell in line with midfoot, feet hip width apart, reaching down. So that's kind of lats. But then when I grab the bar, I'm kind of, armpits to pelvis. Okay, so that's depression of the scapula. It's not retraction of the scapula. So don't squeeze your shoulder blades together. Do you see that makes my reach shorter? So shorter reach means you need to travel further. So don't do that, right? So you want to reach down and armpits to pelvis, okay? Combined with that brace that I told you about, which is keeping those ribs down. I don't arch my back to get my body full of air. I keep them down. And I push with a 360 degrees outwards into that entire belt. So something else that I combine with that I didn't want to mention because I was in action is when I get to that position, crown of the head towards the ceiling. Okay, so that's head up, fingers down. Increase the distance between my top of my head and my fingertips. And then push the world away. So I think push, not pull. Okay, a lot of the times, you can do a deadlift without pushing. That's called a stiff-legged deadlift. That's pure pull. But you cannot do a deadlift without the pull, right? So therefore, think about the push. Don't think about the pull. The pull is automatically going to happen. So that's why I say the cue, push the world away, not pull the bar up. Hope you liked that tutorial, that crash course. You're welcome. $170 twice, because the first time I do it might feel shit, second time I do it might feel easy. And then that'll be where I determine the incremental increase from there. So from here, I'm going blue plates. Let me have a look at the technique. It's not the phone, it's the cradle to make sure that it's square. There we go. Oh. So I don't even take the belt off, that's how loose I have it. I just keep it there rested, and then when I'm about to go, I lift it. 170. That felt good. He's ignoring me. I appreciate it if you watch me, bro. Thanks. To 10. Is this yours?
Yeah, it's yours.
They're both mine. Did you drink some from it?
No, I did spill a slight.
Ah. Yum. Yeah, it was nice actually. And now, yeah, this is 4 minutes between sets. Yeah, that's about right. Probably start going a little bit longer after this one. Where's my chalk? There it is. Feels easy. I shouldn't say that. It looks easy. It feels normal. Even feels heavy. But that's why I like to record, because it's like, does that person look like 290s in the tank? The answer is, of course. Of course, you idiot. So what I want it to look like is the same as every set. You know, it'll slow down a little bit. So far, it's not slowing down that much. I'm sure that 290 will be a lot slower. What was that? That was 250. So next up, 270, last warm up. I'll give myself 6 minutes for this one. What'd you say?
What do you do in your rest time?
Oh, I sit there and either do nothing, or I look at the video of what I did last. And I don't know, I guess it's just my own calculations. So I'm calculating the speed of that. And then I'm thinking about what's it going to feel like when there's 20 more kilograms on the bar. It's probably going to be a little bit harder, which is fine. So I've got to, brace myself to push a little bit harder as well. It's still looking very smooth, and I want it to continue looking smooth. Most of all, I don't want to break down technique. So that's the important thing. Not getting the weight up. Of course, I can get 290 up. I want to get it up with good technique, because that's what I'm going to need to do a big number in competition if I compete. So just so that you know, I'm loosely thinking of competing again. But the number that I want to get, so my last competition, I did a 330 kilogram deadlift in the 110 class. And that wasn't a max effort. I mean, it was my last attempt because I thought that's all I needed. But when I look at the video, it's like, there's more in the tank. Anyway, so it'd be cool to get 330 at a lighter body weight, and I know that I can if I train right. So that's my goal, is a 330 deadlift, which I did 300 a couple of weeks ago after not deadlifting at all. So I know if I peak myself properly, I think I can do that. So that's when I'll make my decision. When I'm at about, 310, 320, that's when I'm going to say, yeah, I'm ready. Not 310. When I'm at about 320. So I think, give me about 2 months. So I'm looking at last week's 280, and my thoughts on last week's 280 is it was clean but slow. So I want this week's to look, 10 kilograms heavier, but I'll be happy if it's exactly the same speed. That'll be a nice progression. I'll be even happier if it's even faster. And then the question is, what do I need to do to make it better? I need to push harder. Seems funny, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems obvious. You just need to push harder. But sometimes that's the reality, right? I need to drive my legs through that ground. Do you notice how I said push harder, not pull harder? Okay, so it's not just about working harder. It's like, that's the cue. My torso is locked in, and I've just got to drive my legs through the ground. So I want this to be 8 minutes rest, and we're about 7 minutes now. So I'm going to get up and get ready. All right, let's make it clean.
Have you put music on the last set?
Yeah. Yeah. Feedback from Musti, the videographer. He said it looked pretty slow off the beginning, but then it was a pretty fast lockout. We just did a before and after. We just watched last week's 280 kilograms. Now, to him, that's what he saw. For me, I didn't see that, but it makes sense, because that's the technique that I teach, is to take your time, spend time in maintaining position off the floor, and you will be rewarded with a stronger lockout. So sometimes it's faster off the floor, and that's when you let your back round and you rip it off the ground. And if your back rounds, it'll fling off the floor really fast. But then if your back is rounded, that's when it's a really grindy, slow lockout. I'll get the exact position. I go down here, grab it, head to ceiling. And then I go push up, and then it's like hard, and then it's smooth lockout. Whereas if I go fast off the floor and I just go boom, and I go whack, and then I've got to lock out my back, not the hips. So the hips are through. The hips are the strongest part of the entire structure. So if you are rounding off the floor, you're going to have to use your upper back muscles and your erector spinae to lock it out, and that's where people miss at the lockout because they were too aggressive. Here, boom, and taking their body out of position. Whereas if you are strong and you're holding that technique, slow, and then it's strong for the lockout. So him telling me it looked slower off the floor, but then it was very strong lockout, that's music to my ears. That's how I want it. One more set. I don't mind a bit of break stuff. Maybe we can go, you know what I also don't like? Limp Bizkit. I like Limp Bizkit.
Keep on rolling, baby.
I don't know if that felt easier than the set before. Felt the same. Kind of felt hard. I tried to increase my aggression, and I don't know. It'll be good to do a side-by-side comparison, just so that I can, you know, this is like my own within person study, where I go, let's do the before with no music, and let's do the after with music, and see who's stronger.
It's not fair, actually. You did a really hard set just before.
I know, so it's fatigue state as well, hey? But either way, that's good, because it was a fatigued but also submaximal, right? So sometimes that's stimulating, like in competition, if to get a 330, you could logically say, yeah, 290 is the opener. 290, 310, 330. You know, by the looks of this, I would say I have the 310 today, not a 330. I would say that my limit would be about 310 today. Not that I'm going to test. Pretty good position. Pretty good position. Okay, but that's my deadlift done. Now, I'm going to be doing some stiletto squats. And instead of, let me get my equipment out so I can show you. Well, there goes this belt. Now I don't use this belt. I use my squatting belt. Everything special made that I use from Pioneer, the best belts that money can buy are for powerlifting. Now, this is 10 mil. Right? I used to be about, you know, the 13 mil because that's a, you know, thicker, stiffer belt and you want it to be as strong as possible. But in my opinion, this is not, like just because it's thinner than the 13 mil, it doesn't mean it stretches more or it has less carryover. I think it stretches the same amount. I don't think there is any stretch in this. And when you have a little bit of a thicker belt, it's just uncomfortable. Now this 10 mil belt contours to the body a lot better than a 13 mil stiff belt. So if you are on the market for a belt, my first recommendation is to go Pioneer. Like you buy one and it lasts forever. Oh, this is my baby. Black on black, murdered out. What does it say? It says Australian strength coach. And look at the lever. It's like you've got increments here. You've got, so whenever I warm up for my squats, I start here on the looser setting, and then I get tighter and tighter and tighter as I get to my top set, and I go quite tight. So this is my brace for the belt. Sorry, this is my brace for the squat. So it's slightly different. So if I did that for the deadlift, actually it's too tight and it'll interfere with me achieving the right position in a deadlift. Whereas with the squat, I don't want to curl over as much. I don't want to be bending over as much. I want to focus on being, it's still the same brace, rib cage to pelvis, but I want to maintain that position from start to finish. And this is a stronger brace when I'm loading my spine for a squat. So the brace remains the same. I do the same thing. Big breath, into my belly, not here, right? And ribs down and push into 360 degrees into that belt. And then maintain that position. So maintain a rigid torso from start to finish. So what a lot of people do with the squat is they arch because they don't want to be rounded forward, right? So they arch backwards. The problem with that is, as I told you with the rectus abdominis, we're not contracting those, we're elongating those, we're lengthening those. We want to contract those, and they shorten when you contract those. So there's the rectus abdominis brace. The next thing is the pelvis position. So when you arch backwards, it anteriorly rotates your pelvis, which changes, it reduces the amount of hip joint flexion that's available to you. So you should try it at home. So here's a test for you. Lean up against the wall, right? And brace with your ribs down. So piss up a wall and lift your knee as high as you can. That's how many degrees of hip joint flexion you have, right? So you get a little bit more when the knee's slightly outwards, so knees out or abducted, right? Next, we'll go side on, arch. Piss up a wall, arch. Piss up a wall, arch. Do you get it? So the more you arch your back, the less range of motion you have. And if you arch and you try and go down, this is when you get into butt wink. And there's a loss of tension, a loss of brace, it's weaker. So when we get our brace, what we're after is stacked. So that's why we get the cue of ribs down. Ribs down, not because ribs up hurts your back or anything like that, it's because ribs down is what will happen if you're contracting your rectus abdominis correctly. And it also changes the way that you position your spine so that it is allowing you to position your pelvis in a more neutral position to allow more depth in that bottom position. When I'm arching, I'll get to that butt wink, right? So piss up a wall, more range of motion. And that's how you brace for a squat. Stiletto squats in my SBD sleeves. So these are very soft compared to what I've been using, which is my Inzer sleeves. So a lot of people talk about how much carryover they get from Inzer sleeves, and I definitely will admit they definitely help a lot, and it is a big difference than compared to my SBD sleeves. However, we're going to compare apples with apples now. And last week I did 200 kilograms for 4 reps on the stiletto squat. And I also did that after doing 280 kilogram deadlift for 2 sets of 1. So this week I went a little bit heavier. I did 290 for 2 sets of 1. So maybe I'm a little bit more fatigued, and I don't know. And maybe there's a big carryover with the Inzers. Time will tell. So I'm gonna just act as though there is no difference. And the number on the program is 200 kilograms for 5 stiletto squat. We'll see how we go. 2 sets. 2 sets of 5. So we're going to go 60 kilograms up in 20s. So 60, 80, 100, 120, 40, 60, 80, 200. And we're going to do singles the whole way up. So we just adjusted the rack height. When I first started, I had it on the right rack height. And then Musti said, should we change it to a bit higher because it's high bar? I thought, oh yeah, sounds about right. Because bending down too far for unracking, is harder not much, but whatever. I'm just being lazy. So I thought, okay. And then if you saw that last set, I had to, like, it kind of clipped, because the heavier the weight, the more it squashes your body down, and then it makes it, by the time you get to the top weight, so that was only 140 kilograms. By the time you get to the top weight, it makes it difficult to unrack it. You have to stand up on your toes, which you don't want to do. So whenever you're measuring your rack height, it's better to be slightly too low than slightly too high. You do not want to tippy toe. You don't want to get up on your toes to unrack that weight. You want to squat that weight up, and don't be lazy. That's a safer and stronger way.
Sorry, boss.
All good. It's not your fault. Like, you suggested, and I thought, oh yeah, sounds like a good idea. Yeah, high bar squat. Musti asked me, should I put chalk on your back? No, not necessary. The bar that I'm using is a weightlifting bar as well. It's just nicer, it's softer knurling. And I don't need the powerlifting knurling because I don't need to grip it on my back. It's resting on my traps. On a low bar squat, you do want thicker knurling on the barbell because you are gripping it on your back, and having chalk on your back can also help when you're going for a heavy lift, but unnecessary for a high bar. Same with wrist wraps. I'm balancing it with my hands. I'm not, like, a lot of the weight's not on my elbows, so this is why you typically don't get elbow pain or bicep pain or wrist pain with a high bar squat. So I don't need wrist wraps, don't need chalk, and I don't need aggressive knurling on the barbell.
It's the same bracing and same.
Oh yeah, same bracing. So elbows back and down. So elbows back is mid-back, down is lats. So that's got nothing to do with how strong where the barbell is on my back. Like, it gives you a better shelf because those muscles are being contracted, but that's to control the rigidity of my torso. And that remains the same for high bar or low bar. Next set is moment of truth. So if I get, so it's 200 kilograms, that's the top set. Last week I got 4 reps and it was pretty hard, but that was with the Inzers. This week, if I equal that, it'll be nice because I can say that I'm still strong in absence of, stiff knee sleeves. Although the stiff knee sleeves help, I always say, like, they help, but if you want the equipment to be strong, you need to be strong. So if I can get the same amount, I'll be happy. If I can get 5, I'll be very, very happy. And that's what I'll be going for. Let's see. If I get 4, it's actually good, but I have high standards. And if I get 4, I will be sad. Even though, like, I don't really deserve to be stronger with these sleeves. You do get a carryover out of the Inzer, so I need to really step it up with this. I'm going to turn on some tunes, and I don't want 4 reps, I want 5 reps. This could be ugly. 18, so it's only been 4 minutes. Less, because that was a minute of recording, so that's 3 minutes. Come on. That's a win, isn't it? 5 reps, so that's 1 extra rep on what I did last week with the really, really strong Inzer sleeves. So, yes, they help, but you know, everyone says whatever number that people get out of it, 20 kilograms, 10 kilograms, I don't know, but that just showed me that it's the lifter, not the sleeves. Of course the sleeves help, don't get me wrong, but I am very happy with that. So happy that I'm gonna celebrate by going straight to my accessories, because I had to dig deep for that one. And I'll make up for it on my next squat day. So this is deadlift day, where I still do squat accessories. On my squat day, I go my low bar pause work and I do more squat work. So that extra set, that was an RPE, that was limit. I don't think I had a 6th rep there, but yeah, so I'm not gonna completely stop. I'm gonna do some really, really easy stuff. Leg extension and hamstring curl, and then we're done. Let's take this off. Now it's gonna be leisurely work. Hope you enjoyed that session. I'm very happy with that. 290 for 2 sets of 1, and then 1 set of 5 on 200 kilogram stiletto squat. Technically that's a PB, and it's an even bigger win because I use the soft SBD sleeves. And that was a great session. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'm gonna see you guys next time.